Welcome to a forthright audio podcast of last week's newspaper column, read with some additional commentary. Column topics often rise out of personal life experience, and this one from last week reflects my reaction to a continuing education workshop. Requiring continuing education is a good thing. All licensed professionals need to keep up with what's new in their field, and as a licensed architect, I keep up on things in the design and building world. But this particular session was an example of the kind of regulatory burden that drove me to get active in politics over 2 decades ago on behalf of my clients who were struggling to keep their buildings operating. As published May 2nd, 2024 in the Spokesman Review entitled Clean Buildings Act Spawns Ridiculous Regulations. Head-shakingly ridiculous describes the reactions of some attendees at a recent professional development workshop on the Clean Buildings Act. It wasn't the fault of the workshop presenter, Michael James of Custom Engineering Consultants, who several times pleaded with the audience, "Don't shoot the messenger." The responsibility lies squarely with Governor Jay Inslee's fixation on decarbonization at all costs, the extreme progressives controlling the legislature's Democratic caucus, and a compliant Commerce Department writing rules micromanaging the operation of more than 11,600 buildings across Washington. According to the Department of Commerce's 2023 report to the legislature, 666 of those buildings are in Spokane County, 92 in Whitman County, and 43 in Stevens County. Here's how it works. Let's say in 2024, you complete the construction of a new building meeting the stringent 2021 Washington State Energy Code. Heck, you were such an earnest advocate for Inslee's vision, or you just wanted to spend less on energy, that you complied with the new code even before it went into effect this year. The building passes all its inspections, you get your certificate of occupancy and turn on the lights. Let the productivity begin. Except, meeting the energy code doesn't matter to the authoritarians in the Inslee administration. You are guilty of being an energy waster until proving yourself innocent. Now, you must trace the convoluted pathways of the Clean Buildings Act, a process with zero overlap with the energy code. There are compliance forms, benchmarking, the calculation of an energy usage intensity target, an energy audit, and an energy management and building management plan. For an older existing building, energy auditors connected with energy contractors might conclude the best way to meet operational targets is for you to purchase some of that equipment they're selling. According to James, the Department of Commerce is encouraging building owners to take out a loan and throw money at the building in response to the audit reports. Why should you? If you buy the systems and don't meet the targets, you won't get fined $1.50 per square foot plus $5,000 every 5 years. Independent energy auditors may be better able to navigate the process to avoid recommendations for mandatory capital improvements. Nothing may actually be accomplished, but the state is happy. And you get to do this every 5 years to prove you are not recklessly extravagant and incapable of responding to normal market forces encouraging thrift. The rules are being phased in, with 3 deadlines for Tier 1 commercial buildings based on size. The deadline for buildings 220,000 square feet and larger is June 1, 2026. Approximately 180 Spokane area buildings fall into this category, James said. Approximately 300 buildings in the range of 90,001 to 220,000 square feet face a 2027 deadline, and buildings from 50,000 to 90,000 square feet are on deck in 2028. The Department of Commerce will be sending notices to building owners based on data gleaned from assessors' records in all 39 counties. The rules apply to public and privately owned buildings, so here are a few Spokane Public School examples for scale. Lewis and Clark High School at 316,000 square feet is an example of the first class. Sacagawea Middle School, 140,000 square feet, is in the second group, and Mullen Road Elementary, 51,464 square feet, is in the final group. At an estimated cost of 50 cents per square foot for analysis and planning, that's $158,000 for LC and $70,000 for Sacagawea. For all 34 Spokane Public Schools, elementaries, the fees will be over $875,000. There are state grants available to school districts to help pay the costs until the appropriation runs out, but the money is all coming out of the same pockets, yours as a taxpayer. And then there's Tier 2, which includes commercial buildings less than 50,000 but more than 20,000 square feet, and all multifamily residential buildings over 20,000 square feet. So far, Tier 2 building owners only have to do the planning parts and, quote, are not currently required to meet a performance metric, end quote, according to the Commerce website. The operative words there are not currently. Building performance is a function of the occupants as well as the insulation windows and systems. Owners of Tier 1 buildings are responsible for meeting energy use, regardless of tenants' actions. While commercial leases might be able to impose some control on retail and office tenants, Tier 2 multifamily buildings with residential leases will not. When a vaping teenager leaves the windows open in January and grandma cracks up the heat to 85 degrees, you as the building owner will get to pay any fines levied by the Department of Commerce. Commerce did not respond to a question asking what happens if a building owner just ignores the notification letter altogether. Paying fines may be less hassle than complying. In addition to a new branch of bureaucracy, the Clean Buildings Act is growing a new market for consultants, both independent architects, engineers, and those connected to suppliers of energy management equipment. It's a funny way to support the Department of Commerce's mission to, quote, promote economic vitality across the state, end quote, by creating jobs at the expense of commercial property owners, public property managers, and housing affordability. Anyone thinking of building in the state of Washington might be rethinking those plans. There was a late response from the Department of Commerce, basically saying that they were planning to follow up with fines, and that the fines could potentially be significant. So there's a lot of sticks, but very few carrots in this program. And that's what makes it the most the most annoying. And it's what reminded me of an interesting class that I took at WSU. It was the history of Chinese philosophy. And as a history of philosophy, it had used 3,000 centuries of Chinese history as the backdrop. What I learned from that class is the Chinese invented bureaucracy. The sheer size of the Chinese empires required delegation of authority. And Confucius is the one who wrote the rule book, literally. Passing the civil service test meant absorbing all of those rules and being ready to write more, and then to apply them to all those that were under their in their little section of the empire. I think of that class often when I run up against bureaucracy. There are bureaucrats who remember what the assignment is, the purpose for their job or their agency, and they try to carry out services to reach that purpose. They are patient people, way more patient than me, working within constraints that would send me home grumpy every night, and I appreciate them. Then there are the bureaucrats who make you redo all the paperwork because you use the wrong color of ink to sign on page 26, or the ones who memorize the rule book and let a lot of book knowledge and a little power go to their heads. Those are the ones I'm referring to in this sentiment, this paragraph that I wrote from my notes after attending the Clean Buildings Act workshop. WAC 19450 makes me think of a favorite history prof's description of the cyclical nature of Chinese history, wherein one warlord would overpower the others, unify the country, declare himself emperor, and set up a Confucian civil service for administration. The power of the civil service would rise, with bureaucrats tying the population in knots until the countryside was fed up, and a new warlord rode in from the hinterlands and lopped off a few heads to cut the administration down to size. I figured I shouldn't use that in the newspaper, but I did use it as inspiration for the column, and I'm happy to be able to state it forthrightly on a Substack version. Take the time to subscribe to Substack for email notification of new content. If you are entertained or educated or you like being exasperated, consider making a pledge. And thanks for listening.